Hello, this is the Provoked Prawn, and this is the Royal Kludge RK96. This is a wireless keyboard with 96 keys, hence the name. And as you can see, an interesting one with a very white finish. Now this is a very affordable keyboard that packs in a number of really interesting highlights. And this is an unboxing video, and I'm going to be showing you what's included in the box, but more importantly, talking about this incredibly feature-rich wireless keyboard, which comes in at a ridiculously low price of £63 sterling, which is remarkably affordable. That's about $79, and considering that it has Bluetooth, wireless, hot-swappable key switches, USB pass-through, and all sorts of other things that I'm going to show you in this video, it's incredible for the price. A wonderful setup. Also comes with a magnetic wrist rest, which has a highlight of its own that I'll talk to you about in a minute. A detachable USB-C cable for charging purposes. Some spare switches in the box, along with a key switch and keycap puller as well. That allows you to customize it and pull out the keys and swap them out for others if you so wish. Now this keyboard's available with blue, brown or red Royal Kludge switches, which are very similar to Cherry MX style or Gateron switches, but more importantly, as you'll hear later on in this video, it's also built with comfort and quiet in mind, and that's because it happens to have a wonderful setup that includes not only lubed stabilisers but also 2 layers of silencing high density foam. And I was struck by just how wonderful it sounds to type on and what it feels like as well. And there you can see the magnetic wrist rest snapping into place. And I want to quickly talk about that because it's the little things that really make this keyboard. And one of the things, for example, is the design of that wrist rest. You'll notice just under the directional arrows there's a little notch in the keyboard where the magnetic wrist rest snaps into. What this means is that if you go to push the keyboard, as I've found, and move it around on your desk, but you push on the wrist rest at the same time, it doesn't push off as easily as it would if it was just a flat, straight wrist rest. It's a simple thought like that that not only makes the design look nice, but makes it a bit more convenient too. Obviously, also with the keycap and key switch puller in the box, you have the option to swap out the switches, but also you get some extra ones in there. So if you find that you broke some or some wear out over time, let's say there are some under heavy use that include obviously the WASD keys if you're going to be gaming, or directional arrows, then obviously you have extras included that you can just change out yourself, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. So already you're seeing some very nice highlights to this, but more importantly it has a lot of other things that are hidden below the surface. So this is a wireless keyboard that packs in some serious battery power. It packs in a 3750 milliamp battery, which is said to last up to 250 hours with the lighting turned off, and it also has fast charging capabilities. Now I've not been able to test 250 hours, but I will say that it is nice to have the option. You also have Bluetooth 5.0 and the wireless 2.4 gigahertz dongle included, and you'll notice that you have convenient media controls as well. There's a nice little tiny volume wheel on the side there, and you have media playback buttons buried in the function row as well, so you can see, for example, F6, F7 and F8 is like stop, rewind, pause, play and skip, and you have volume adjustment in there. And as you can see, there's also hardware level lighting effects. Now this isn't an RGB keyboard. It does, however, have a nice little blue backlighting to it, and you can obviously adjust between various different schemes by just using the various different controls at hardware level. You can see, for example, that function and print screen adjusts. You can also adjust the speed of it with function and directional arrows, and you can go through different schemes by pressing function and Q, W and E. And also if you press function and backspace, you can choose which buttons on the keyboard you want to light up by just pressing those buttons and then pressing function and backspace again to sort of stop it. I won't say that the lighting is particularly fancy. I am under heavy video lighting to capture this footage, so it perhaps shines a little bit better than this, but I wasn't blown away by the lighting. I think that's the one area that lets this keyboard down, but for the price, considering all the other things that you're getting, it's a minor complaint about what is otherwise a really interesting and fascinating keyboard for a number of different reasons. There's also some software that's available that allow you to customize between 20 different lighting effects, and I'll show you a little bit of that later on, and you can tweak the various things in it. But here you can see me simply adjusting the lighting by just pressing buttons on the keyboard. So even at hardware level, you can just turn the lighting on and off and adjust it in the way you want to. And obviously that's nice to not have to worry with software. You don't need to install the software, but if you want to do things like record macros or change key switch presses, then you can do that with the software. Now the keycaps come off easily enough with the included puller. That tool also has a key switch puller on the other side, so you can just flip it around and then you can pull the switches out. As I said, these are Royal Kludge's switches. They are marked as such, but they do look very similar to Gateron Reds, for example. So they're pretty sweet switches for gaming on and reasonably quiet. You can get blue or brown switches if you prefer. It's a personal preference thing. I will give you a sound test to show you what the red ones sound like at the end of this video. I'm also going to do a separate video where I'm upgrading it with Gateron yellow switches, and I'll show you the difference between that if you come back for that video that I'll link to in the description as well. Now the other thing that's interesting about this is it's hot swappable, which means that you can take the switches out while the keyboard's turned on and replace the switches and see them in action to make sure that they're actually working while you're doing it, which makes it convenient for putting new switches in and testing that they're working. It also supports both 3 and 5 pin switches, so you can see when you pull the switches out, for example, that they have the plastic pin in the middle and then 2 metal pins as standard, but you can also get 5 pin switches and put them in here, so you have a flexibility in what you're installing. You'll also see the blue LED on the underside there and what that does. I apologize for the flashing effects that's coming through on the video. That is some of the effects on the keyboard, but also the settings on the camera was causing it to just flicker a little bit more, so just watch out for that. It isn't, like I said, not particularly fancy in terms of the lighting, but this is a small complaint over what is a very feature-rich keyboard, as you can see. Keycaps are obviously quite nice as well. They are very white. It's a very bright-looking keyboard. Because of this setup, and they do let through quite a bit of the lighting through the etchings. I think the lettering on it's pretty good. What you will notice from these various shots is you'll see that there are various other hidden settings or extra settings on a lot of the keys. You'll see, for example, that A and S allows you to switch between Mac and Windows layout, and as I said already, you have the dedicated media volume. You also have multiple different buttons for adjusting the lighting and changing your media playback and other things. You'll notice there are also like the home and delete keys built into the middle of the keyboard as well as the keyboard itself, so you have a very long keyboard with all the normal keys but extra keys buried in the extra function layer, so you just need to press the function key to access them. On the back you'll find there is a little spot for the 2.4 GHz dongle, and obviously also you have adjustable feet. At the rear you'll also notice there are 2 switches, one for turning the keyboard on and off and the other one switching between wireless and Bluetooth modes, so you have the option to choose what of those modes you're using. Obviously 2.4 GHz will be more stable if you're planning to do it for gaming and such, and I found there's a decent connection wirelessly. Obviously preferable to plug it in with a cable for the most part, however I haven't had an issue when using it in wireless mode. You can see the sort of levels of adjustment in the feet, not particularly different, and there is a slight slope to it anyway, and I did think when I first got it out of the box that the chunky wrist rest was going to be uncomfortable, but actually this one sits very comfortably and it is very nice to type on, and that wrist rest is surprisingly comfortable. On the rear you'll also see that you have 2 USB pass-through ports, so when it's plugged in with the USB-C cable, obviously that's for charging purposes, but you can also connect in other devices to it, so you can plug in a headset or mouse directly to this. This keyboard has a lot of features that you'd see on a lot more expensive keyboards, and I think it actually beats a lot of the expensive keyboards, especially from the big brands that you might be used to, the big gaming brands. I think it actually beats them in a number of ways, not least of which is the sound and feel of the switches and the typing experience. And you'll hear some of that in a minute, but the lubed stabilizers and also the switch design, and more importantly, the fact that they have set it up with that silencing foam on the inside. So there's 2 layers of foam buried in there that's designed to make it sound nicer. Here you can see a shot of the upgraded version of this keyboard with the lava keycaps, and I'm going to do a video separately to show you the upgrade process for that. But I want to also give you a sound test to show you what the quality of the typing experience is like. So I'm going to be quiet for a minute so you can hear and enjoy that. What you will have noticed is there's very little noise from the keyboard from a number of different places where you usually hear a lot of pings or rattles or uncomfortable scratchy sounds from lesser keyboards, and that is because the stabilizers are really well done. So for example, the shift and enter keys and the space bar are all really well stabilized, and it's nicely lubed in a way that gives a really satisfying typing experience. It's probably one of the best keyboards that I've tried that's sort of factory out of the box set up without any extra sort of modification afterwards. This is straight out of the box how it came. I haven't made any changes to it at this point, and it is very nice typing experience, and considering the price that you're paying, this is absolutely fantastic. Here we are within Royal Kludge's software, and you'll see that it's fairly no frills and not terribly user friendly, if I'm honest. There are 3 different profiles set up as standard that you can rename, and you can then go into the various keys and change what they do. You see there's the modifier keys and function keys and other things here, so you can basically reassign keys to be something else. So we can assign 0 to now be A if you wanted to do that. So you can remap keys as you want them. And I suppose that's pretty good because you could get rid of caps lock, for example, or just customize other things. In here, you can also record macros. So you can set up a macro and you can start recording. You can set stop recording, save. You can set a macro. So you can assign a macro, but I've no idea how you actually use it. It's not obvious how you assign it, so it's not very intuitive, the software. In the lighting section, you can go through the 20 different lighting effects. Unfortunately, I can't easily show you these on camera, but you can see just how many that you can choose from, so you have a variety of options there. And then you can also go into here and you can access things like software updates and restore factory settings, restore keyboard data, firmware update if necessary, and you can also check it to auto run. So the software is not that amazing, and I think doesn't do the keyboard justice because the keyboard's a lot nicer to use. So the hardware is where this keyboard shines, is what I'm trying to say. A very nice typing experience, loads of battery life, comfortable to use, and a remarkable number of features and a very good specification considering the price. I'll leave all the specs in the description, and I'll also do a separate video on how I upgraded it to show you what you can do with it and the final result of that, so be sure to check that out. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Let me know in the comments if you've got any questions. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Hope you found this video useful, interesting, hilarious, or otherwise. Take a look at these other videos that I think you might find interesting as well. And have a look at the description for links and other information you might find useful. Click that join button to see the benefits of being a member of my YouTube channel. And most importantly, have a great life.